I am so incredibly excited you're joining us today because, honestly, we're about to embark on a seriously transformative journey. We live in this hyper-connected, fast-paced world, right? And the modern workplace, it is relentlessly demanding and emotionally taxing. So today, we're going to completely demystify emotional intelligence. We're going to pop the hood and look at the actual evolutionary brain science that drives literally every move we make. Let's dive right in.
Let's be real for a second. We have absolutely all been there. Have you ever found yourself in a super high-stakes situation? Maybe it's a high-pressure meeting where literally all eyes are on you. Or you're having a really difficult conversation with your partner. And suddenly, your heart is just racing, your stomach completely drops, and bam, you snap. You say or do something you instantly wish you could just take back. It is so frustrating, isn't it? It's kind of like your emotions totally hijacked your logic before you even had a single second to form a rational thought. Listen, I really want to validate that experience for you right now, because it happens to the absolute best of us.
You know, in this unpredictable, crazy world we live in, having a high IQ and top-tier technical skills, it's just not enough anymore to guarantee long-term success. Think about it. Your technical expertise, that's what gets your foot in the door, right? It gets you hired. But your cognitive intelligence, your IQ, it's actually pretty static. It really doesn't change much past your early adulthood. Emotional intelligence, on the other hand, that is your ability to adapt and gracefully navigate these super complex interpersonal landscapes. This is the real secret weapon. It is what separates the people who just plateau from the ones who actually thrive. It's dynamic, it's a highly trainable muscle, and the best part is it actually compounds in value the further you advance in your life and your career. Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to hit the EQ gap, check out the precise brain science behind our reactions, break down the 4 pillars of EQ, unlock the power of emotional agility, and then wrap up with a totally concrete EQ action blueprint you can use.
All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the emotional intelligence gap, and why incredibly smart people sometimes hit this invisible ceiling.
Picture that brilliant engineer or that mastermind strategist you might know. You know the one. They just can't seem to get promoted because they keep inadvertently alienating their entire team. Top performers don't just execute tasks on a spreadsheet. No, they master the messy, inherently human ability to adapt to sudden shifts, soaring stress levels, and that inevitable interpersonal friction. Listen, struggling with unexpected change is not a personality flaw. It's not some fixed character defect. It's really just a gap in a highly trainable emotional skill set. So let's look at exactly why that gap exists biologically. And that brings us to section 2, the brain science of reactions. This is where we prove why you are literally, physically hardwired to feel things way before you ever think about them. Okay, so picture this. Every single piece of sensory information, everything you see, hear, touch, or experience, it enters your body down at the base of your spinal cord. But before those signals can travel all the way up to your rational frontoparietal cortex, right at the front of your head to be logically processed, they have to pass through your limbic system. Now, this is the primitive, ancient, emotional core of your brain, and it's dominated by a little structure called the amygdala. Millennia ago, this architectural setup was a massive evolutionary advantage. I mean, it allowed your ancestors to instantly feel fear and literally run from a predator before consciously analyzing it. Because of this ancient wiring, you still experience a raw emotional reaction to every single event before your conscious, logical mind can even process what is actually happening. And this exact biological sequence creates what psychologists call an amygdala hijack. Imagine this. You receive a passive-aggressive email from your boss at exactly 4:59 p.m. on a Friday. When you read it, your limbic system misinterprets that totally modern psychological pressure as a literal, physical life-or-death emergency. It completely floods your bloodstream with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. You might get tunnel vision, your skin might flush, your heart rate skyrockets, and it essentially just shuts down your access to your logical brain. So if you snap under pressure, hey, it's just your basic human neuroanatomy doing the exact job it evolved to do to keep you safe. Emotional intelligence isn't about stopping this physical rush. There's no way you can. It's actually about shortening the gap between that initial visceral emotion and your rational, deliberate response. So how do we do that? Let's move to section 3 and see how this all builds into actual actionable skills. We're going to explore the 4 pillars of EQ, which is a brilliant framework designed by experts Travis Bradberry and Gene Greaves. These fundamental skills fall into 2 distinct but super interconnected categories. First up, we have personal competence. This is how you handle your own internal world, and it's built on self-awareness and self-management. Then, second, we have social competence. This is how you handle the external world and other people, which is made up of social awareness and relationship management. Let's break these down starting right at the foundation. Pillar 1 is self-awareness. Now, most of us just assume we're self-aware, right? But true, real-time observation of our internal state, it's actually surprisingly rare. Highly self-aware people completely change their relationship with their feelings. They don't look at emotions and classify them as good or bad. Instead, they treat them purely as neutral data. So when a colleague criticizes your big project, that flash of anger you feel, it's not a bad thing. It is simply a neutral data point, a little alarm bell alerting you that your hard work feels threatened. By labeling these emotions as objective information rather than judging them, you actually engage your logical brain, which instantly starts to cool down that intense limbic system response. Once you successfully observe that internal data, you can move right into Pillar 2, self-management. This is where the real work happens, folks. When you feel that massive surge of intense emotion, you have to train yourself to take a deliberate 3-second pause, just like that. During those quiet seconds, take a really deep diaphragmatic breath. Biologically, this physical act stimulates your vagus nerve, which essentially tells your nervous system, hey, we are fundamentally safe, and it brings your rational cortex right back online. In those few seconds, you can completely upgrade your internal self-talk. Instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I am under attack, you consciously pivot to, okay, this is just a solvable problem. You align your next action with your long-term values rather than your short-term panic. Now, we shift our lens outward to Pillar 3, which is social awareness. The absolute core engine running this pillar is empathy. And we need to be clear here, there is a massive difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is like standing on the edge of a deep hole and feeling sorry for the person stuck down at the bottom. Empathy, though, empathy is actually climbing down into that trench, stepping into their shoes, and feeling what they are feeling from their unique perspective. To do this, you really have to pay intense attention to nonverbal signals. Did you know over 80% of human communication happens through subtle body language? Just a slight shift in tone, or maybe crossed arms? By actively observing these micro-expressions, you're responding to what's actually happening beneath the surface, not just the literal words being spoken. The final and definitely most complex pillar is relationship management. This is the culmination of literally everything we've talked about so far. I want you to think of your relationships like a trust bank account. Every single time you practice active listening or you view critical feedback as valuable data without getting all defensive, you are making a massive deposit. But when you mismanage conflict or you use accusatory language like, well, you always do this, you are taking a huge withdrawal. High relationship management means navigating inevitable conflict by viciously attacking the problem while completely protecting the person. By consistently making emotional deposits, you foster psychological safety and build an unbreakable trust account with the people around you. Okay, so what actually transforms standard emotional intelligence into truly dynamic, next-level leadership? Let's get into Section 4, the power of emotional agility. We all have a go-to emotional setting, right? It's a habit we probably formed way back in childhood or really early in our careers. Agility is the crucial ability to step out of that comfort zone and adapt your approach based on a rapidly changing environment. The big problem here is that most of us fall into a default reaction trap. We rely on this rigid emotional habit that might work perfectly in one very specific scenario, but man, it fails spectacularly in another. We have to remember that absolutely no single emotional response is universally appropriate for every single situation we face. Let's flesh out these default personas a bit, because I guarantee they will sound incredibly common to you. Think about the manager who prioritizes pure harmony. They are lovely to work with, absolutely, but they let critical deadlines slide and totally struggle to hold underperformers accountable because they are just terrified of conflict. Then there's the pure dominance leader. They are fantastic in a crisis and they'll hit every Q3 target for sure, but they leave a trail of bruised egos and ultimately cause half their team to quit from total burnout. Finally, we have pure analysis. These individuals are brilliant, highly objective, but relying on pure logic exclusively, it makes them appear really cold, alienating people by treating human beings like they're just algorithms. We have got to break free from these one-size-fits-all traps. This is where Agile EQ comes in. It gives you this full, rich palette of emotional colors to paint with. Think of it like painting a landscape masterpiece. You wouldn't just use the color blue for the entire canvas, would you? Of course not. In the exact same way, an agile person knows exactly how to color match their emotions to the specific demands of the moment. They might boldly use the bright red of decisive, unyielding authority during a 9 a.m. crisis just to steer the ship, but then seamlessly shift to the warm, compassionate yellow of deep, active listening for a one-on-one performance review at noon. They don't just react on autopilot. They read the room, and they deliberately choose the most constructive path forward. Now, knowing all of this theory is wonderful. It really is. But fundamentally rewiring your brain, that takes intentional daily practice. Let's finish up with Section 5, your EQ Action Blueprint. Gradbury and Greaves offer this fantastic, highly actionable 5-step plan to help establish brand new neural pathways in your brain. Step 1 is to assess your baseline. Get honest, objective feedback on what your blind spots are. Step 2, and this is absolutely vital, folks, select just one specific skill at a time to focus on. Neuroplasticity is incredibly hard work. If you try to improve all 4 pillars simultaneously, you're going to experience massive cognitive overwhelm and you will change absolutely nothing. Pick one target. Step 3, choose actionable strategies, like committing to that 3-second pause every single day. Step 4, find a trusted practice partner to keep you accountable and stop you from backsliding into those old comfy habits. And finally, Step 5, measure your progress and heavily celebrate those small wins. Rewiring your brain takes time, it takes patience, and it absolutely requires positive reinforcement. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to keep this in mind. Life is continuously going to throw unexpected, chaotic challenges your way. Interpersonal triggers and intense stress, they will always exist in the modern world. But guess what? You now have the mental software to navigate them with actual grace. You can fundamentally change your relationship with life's difficulties. It is time to stop viewing emotional discomfort as some big threat to your ego and start viewing it as a profound, daily invitation to practice your newfound agility. The next time you feel that sudden surge of stress, the next time your amygdala tries to hijack your logical brain, you have a choice. You genuinely have the power to step off autopilot and consciously choose who you want to be in that moment. So I leave you with this final thought. What will your next 3 seconds look like?